Imagine you're just months away from this really quiet, predictable retirement. You know, you've spent decades as a serious, meticulous bridge engineer.
Right.
Your foot is painfully injured. Your daily routine is entirely set in stone. And your next move is to voluntarily walk 2,200 miles through the untamed wilderness.
Which just sounds insane.
It really does. But fast forward a few months and you are standing on a mountain peak in Maine, dubbed a zany Austrian by absolute strangers, and you're singing 1980s pop music and the sound of music at the top of your lungs.
I mean, that level of complete personality overhaul it's just rare to witness, let alone document day by day.
Yeah, exactly.
We're looking at this profound psychological metamorphosis happening in real time, and it's all triggered by extreme physical exertion.
And that is exactly the mission of today's deep dive. We are so thrilled you're joining us. Today, we're unpacking the 2025 Appalachian Trail Journal of a man named Gregor Woolman.
Yeah, and his daily entries are just incredibly candid.
They really are. Through his journal, we are going to explore how abandoning modern society to, sleep in the dirt can fundamentally rewire a person's sense of self.
So to ground us in the sheer scale of what we're actually analyzing here, we need to lay out the geographical and physical parameters of this journey.
Right, because it's not a standard hike.
No, not at all. Gregor took on what is called a wraparound through hike of the Appalachian Trail. Because he lives in Blacksburg, Virginia, he didn't start at one end.
He started in the middle, basically.
Exactly. He started the trailhead from McAfee Knob, which is roughly a third of the way into the trail. He hiked north to Maine, traveled all the way down to Georgia, and then hiked north again to finish right back where he started.
Which means he is traversing 14 states, covering roughly 2,200 miles.
Massive.
And the elevation numbers are, honestly, they're what truly break my brain. He's facing a staggering 460,000 feet of elevation gain and another 460,000 feet of elevation loss.
It's unbelievable.
Right. To put that into perspective for you listening, that is the equivalent of climbing Mount Everest from sea level more than 16 times.
It's an absolute biomechanical nightmare. I mean, the human body is simply not designed to undergo that kind of sustained repetitive trauma without profound consequences.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because to really understand the magnitude of this hike, we have to look at the specific hiker. Gregor he's not some elite ultra runner.
No, not even close.
He is an Austrian immigrant who has lived in the United States for 39 years. And as he approaches retirement, he writes in his journal that his biological clock is ticking loudly.
Yeah, he feels the time slipping away.
Right, and he refuses to just sit around mourning the brevity of life. He wants a challenge that matches the sheer audacity of his original move to the U.S. 4 decades ago.
And the journal provides this brilliant window into his mindset before he even takes his first official step.
Yeah.
We get this origin story for his trail name.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Because in the Appalachian Trail, you abandon your given name for an alias. And Gregor goes by Gutsy.
And the story behind that name is hilarious. So a couple of years before this thru hike, he was on a shorter overnight trip with a group of his wife Karen's students.
Right.
He's cooking a freeze-dried dinner in the dark, and he accidentally stirs the desiccant packet, the moisture-absorbing silica gel, right into his food, assuming it's a spice packet.
And he does this despite the packet having do not eat warnings printed on it in 12 different languages.
12 languages, and he just eats the meal anyway.
It's wild.
I mean, it is the human equivalent of ignoring the check engine light on your dashboard, but for your gastrointestinal tract. He completely disregards the factory warning.
Yeah, he just powered right through it.
He obviously survived, and the studios started calling him Iron Stomach, which morphed into Iron Guts, and finally, Gutsy.
It is a highly entertaining anecdote, for sure, but it also establishes a really critical theme, which is Gutsy's willingness to push through bodily distress.
Which he desperately needed.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because he started this 2,200-mile ordeal with a severe physical handicap. He had a case of tendinitis in his foot, specifically in the hallux longus.
Let's break down what that actually means for the listener, because tendinitis sounds like a generic ache.
Yeah, it sounds like something you just ice for a day.
Exactly. But the hallux longus is the tendon that flexes your big toe. Every single time you take a step, your entire body weight pushes off that specific tendon to propel you forward.
Consider the physics of it. A typical medical recovery for that specific tendon injury takes about 4 full months of rest.
4 months.
4 months. And Gussie was only 2.5 months into his recovery when he strapped a heavy pack to his back and hit the trail. Every single step of those 2,200 miles required pushing off a compromised biological lever.
What blows my mind is his risk calculation here. He wrote in his journal that he gave himself only a 25% chance of making it past his first major checkpoint in Daleville, Virginia.
Which was just a few days away.
Right. He knew his foundation was cracked before he even started. But he reasoned that if he failed, he was just dabbling, he could just go home.
Yeah, exactly.
But if he succeeded, he would achieve this profound pride and the massive psychological reset he was chasing.
That dabbling mindset is such a fascinating psychological defense mechanism.
Yep.
It lowers the stakes of failure. But that defense mechanism crashes into a very sharp, unforgiving reality the moment he hits the trail conditions.
Oh, immediately.
The environmental hurdles he documents immediately put that 25% survival odds to the absolute test.
I mean, the journal entries from Pennsylvania are genuinely hard to read. Thru-hikers call it Rocksylvania for a reason.
It's notorious.
He describes miles of terrain covered in what he calls shark teeth-like rocks. Imagine navigating an endless field of jagged, uneven stone daggers when you already have a damaged tendon in your big toe.
Your foot can never land flat.
Never.
The biomechanical strain drops his pace to a grueling crawl of just 2 miles per hour. Yet, defying all logic, it is during this specific torturous section that he pushes himself to complete his longest day of the entire trip.
Which was, over 20 miles?
Yeah, 23.2 miles into a town called Hamburg.
And nature isn't just throwing rocks at him. The weather extremes are absurd. One entry details him dodging violent thunderstorms, completely exposed on a mountain ledge, praying he doesn't get struck by lightning.
Terrifying.
And then a few weeks later, near Mount Washington in New Hampshire, he is fighting through 65-mile-per-hour winds. His gear is actively failing.
And his feet are just destroyed at this point.
Oh, completely. He writes about his heels being rubbed totally raw down to the flesh. He tries to use leukotape, which is this heavy-duty zinc oxide athletic tape that's supposed to be indestructible, but the moisture has caused the tape to permanently fuse to itself in his bag.
So it's just a useless clump.
Just a useless clump.
It's a masterclass in compounding misery. Yeah. I mean, your boots never dry out, your skin is sloughing off, your joints are screaming, and you're operating on a severe caloric deficit.
Which makes I have to challenge the romanticism of the trail here.
Sure.
Reading these entries, I kept asking myself, why do rational humans voluntarily subject themselves to this?
It's a fair question.
At one point, Gutsy stays at the Lakes of the Clouds hut, and to pay for his lodging, he does a work for stay. But this wasn't like sweeping a porch.
No.
This meant standing around waiting for the paying tourists to finish eating their hot catered meals. Then he cleans up their dirty dishes, gets to eat whatever leftover scraps they didn't want, and his reward is sleeping on a hard, cold kitchen floor.
Yeah.
How does anyone frame that as a vacation?
Well, that highlights a really core concept in human psychology, which is the power of contrast. The intense physical and social degradation actually resets his brain's dopamine baseline.
Okay, a dopamine reset.
Right. The misery creates the necessary darkness for the smallest moments of magic to shine with blinding intensity.
That reset is incredibly evident in how he writes about modern conveniences. You or I might take a basic shower for granted,
Sure.
But Gutsy scores an Uber to a microtel in town, and he writes about taking a hot bath like he's just discovered the Holy Grail.
It's purely euphoric for him.
He spends an entire paragraph marveling at the sheer kindness of a bank teller who cheerfully made change for a $20 bill so he could use a coin-operated shower facility. His threshold for joy is completely recalibrated.
And we also see that recalibration in his connection to the natural world. Stripped of all his modern distractions, he experiences these visceral, quiet encounters.
Like the deer.
Yes. He documents a surprisingly tame deer that just calmly shares a space with him at Tinker Cliffs. He watches a bear cub running through the morning fog in the Georgia woods.
Wow.
These moments wouldn't resonate nearly as deeply if he hadn't suffered to reach them.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. We've talked about the jagged rocks, the failing tendons, and the weather. But diving into the journal, you quickly realize the most unpredictable, chaotic, and ultimately transformative element of the Appalachian Trail isn't the forest.
No, it's the people.
It's people.
The trail family. It is a completely unique sociological phenomenon. Physical survival relies on gear and calories, but psychological survival relies entirely on this fiercely supportive, completely bizarre subculture that forms in the woods.
The cast of characters he hikes with sounds completely fictional. You have Milkbone, who originally went by the trail name Skeletor.
Right, the Amazon driver.
Yeah, back in the real world, he's an Amazon delivery driver. Out on the trail, he is casually crushing 30-mile days like he's out for a stroll.
And then there's Tennessee Slim.
Oh, Tennessee Slim, a homeless man who carries everything he owns in his pack, hiking the entire trail with his beautiful husky buddy.
And the resilience of the people he encounters constantly reframes his own suffering. I mean, Gutsy meets a hiker named Mischief. Mischief had previously lost the front half of both of his feet to severe frostbite during a winter accident on the trail.
Which is just awful.
It is. But instead of riding off the wilderness forever, Mischief is back out there biking along the accessible sections of the trail.
It's astounding, and you realize everyone is out there running from or towards something completely different. He hikes with a woman named Emma, whose trail name is Crazy Sasquatch.
Right.
She was a highly educated marine biologist who had just bought a house in Washington, D.C., only to be abruptly fired during a massive government efficiency purge, the DOG purge. She is quite literally out in the woods rage hiking to process the shock.
And just a quick note for you listening. Our goal here isn't to weigh in on the politics of government downsizing or efficiency mandates.
Right, of course not.
We are strictly looking at Emma's situation as one of the many diverse, real-world catalysts that push people out of their comfortable routines and into the extreme environment of the trail. The wilderness acts as a giant catch-all for humans in major life transitions.
Exactly. Whether it is a political upheaval, a lost job, a personal tragedy, or a looming retirement, the dirt doesn't care why you showed up.
The dirt treats everyone the same.
And because everyone is stripped of their societal context, the social dynamics completely flatten out, which leads to arguably the most important interaction in Gutsy's entire journal.
Oh, with K2.
Yes. He meets a hiker from New Zealand who goes by the name K2. Now, K2 writes a daily blog documenting his hike. One night in his tent, Gutsy is reading K2's blog on his phone, and he discovered that K2 has referred to him as zany Austrian.
That's fantastic.
And later on, K2 lovingly calls him a Zinken people.
That is a highly technical, deeply affectionate linguistic invention, clearly.
It is brilliant, but the realization Gutsy has here is profound. He actually has to look up the definition of the word zany.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And he discovers it means unconventionally entertaining and fun. He writes this incredibly vulnerable entry. He says, "All my life, I have thought of myself as boring, shy, timid, and socially challenged."
That's heartbreaking.
It is. He believed that was his fixed personality. But suddenly, through the fresh, unbiased eyes of a total stranger from New Zealand, he is seen as the exact opposite. He is fun. He is zany.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this interaction perfectly illustrates how identity is constructed. Identity isn't a statue carved in stone. It's more like a suspension bridge.
Okay, I like that analogy.
It's held up by the tension of the cables around it. Your job title, your daily commute, your mortgage, your long-term friends who expect you to act a certain way. When you walk into the woods, you take a pair of bolt cutters to every single one of those cables.
That is a fantastic way to look at it. Without the cables holding up the serious bridge engineer persona, the entire structure of his personality shifts.
Exactly.
Back in society, Emma was the marine biologist. Tennessee Slim was the homeless man. But out there, those hierarchies do not exist. They are all just fragile, smelly humans walking in the same direction, nursing the exact same blisters, and relying on the exact same bursts of what they call trail magic.
Right, the trail magic being those spontaneous acts of extreme generosity from strangers.
Like when a local trail runner named Chris randomly shows up at a lean-to shelter and drops off 4 ice-cold cans of beer for the hikers.
Best beer they've ever had, I'm sure.
Oh, without a doubt. In that moment, your tax bracket is irrelevant. Your resume doesn't matter. You are just a tired person gratefully receiving a gift from the universe.
But cutting those identity cables and navigating this new reality isn't a painless process. The physical and mental toll eventually forces a severe psychological reckoning.
Yeah, it really hits him hard. The journal documents a really dark period where Gutsy hits a profound funk.
He really spirals.
He does. The miles are compounding. He's exhausted. He feels utterly ravaged by old age. He is moving so slowly through a difficult section that he spirals into severe anxiety, genuinely convincing himself he might be developing Parkinson's disease.
Which is terrifying when you're isolated.
Very. In this incredibly raw entry, he admits the unthinkable. He isn't having any fun. He realizes the only reason he is still putting one foot in front of the other is because he is terrified of failing.
This is the absolute crisis point of his journey.
Mm-hmm.
And synthesizing how he gets out of this funk is the most valuable lesson in the entire journal.
Absolutely.
Gutsy realizes that his misery isn't actually being caused by the steepness of the mountain or the rocks on the trail.
Mm-hmm.
His misery is entirely manufactured by comparison.
He's looking at the people around him. He's comparing his daily mileage to a 23-year-old hiker named Strider who bounds up the mountains.
Right.
And he's comparing himself to the FKT athletes, the fastest known time runners, who are literally sprinting past him in the woods.
This brings up a brilliant framework from game theory. Modern life often conditions us to play finite games. A finite game has fixed rules, clear boundaries, and the ultimate goal is to win. To be the fastest, to get the promotion, to beat the other guy.
Right, a race.
Exactly. When Gutsy was comparing himself to the FKT runners, he was playing a finite game on the trail. And he was losing.
But the epiphany happens when he decides to change the game he is playing. He shifts to playing an infinite game.
Right.
In an infinite game, the goal isn't to win. The goal is simply to keep playing the game.
Precisely. Gutsy makes a conscious, deliberate shift in his mindset. He writes down a new mantra. As long as I am moving forward, I'm doing my job.
I love that.
He accepts that the trail isn't a race. He stops treating it like a spreadsheet that needs to be optimized. Instead, he embraces what he describes as a timeless existence in the forest. His only requirement for the day is to exist and to walk.
It's a subtle shift in perspective, but it changes his entire trajectory. From that moment on, he distills his daily experience into 4 core takeaways.
And they're brilliant.
They really are. And as you read them, you realize they are universally applicable, whether you are in the woods or in a cubicle. Number 1, hike your own hike, live your own life.
Number 2, be kind to yourself. You cannot beat yourself up for not being a 23-year-old named Strider.
Number 3, optimism is absolutely warranted. If you keep moving forward, something good will happen.
And number 4, accept the kindness of others. Let go of the rigid independence that tells you that you have to suffer alone.
When he actually applies these 4 lessons, the transformation is a joy to witness. The timid, shy bridge engineer completely sheds his rigid shell.
He's a new person.
He is. The crescendo of this journal happens when he finally reaches Maine. He is standing on top of Goose Eye Mountain, surrounded by this eclectic trail family he has built, and he is literally singing and dancing to "The Hills Are Alive" from The Sound of Music.
That is just an amazing image.
Later, he tries to serenade a hostile caretaker with a rendition of Edelweiss. I mean, he has tapped into this well of bandless, joyous energy that he never knew he possessed.
He achieved the reset he was looking for. The looming anxiety about retiring, the fear that he would just fade into the boring background of life, it entirely dissipates.
Completely gone.
He steps off the Appalachian Trail, having achieved a state of deep, vibrant acceptance regarding his next chapter.
So, what does this all mean? As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to bring the focus directly to you listening to this right now.
Yeah, because there's a big takeaway here.
There really is. Gutsy's 2025 Appalachian Trail Journal is so much more than a log of elevation profiles and blister treatments. It is documented proof that the way you see yourself right now is not fixed.
The application here is vital. You don't need to quit your job, abandon your home, and walk 2,200 miles on a damaged tendon to implement the psychology of what Gutsy learned.
Please don't do that.
Right, don't do that. But you can stop playing the finite game today. You can start comparing your pace to the 23-year-old Striders in your own office or the people sprinting past you on social media.
The goal isn't to be the fastest to the top of the mountain. The goal is to realize that as long as you are moving forward, you are doing your job.
That's right.
The labels we wear, our job titles, our social status, our self-diagnosed flaws, they are just the cables on that suspension bridge. They are holding up a version of you, but they are not the only version of you.
Those cables can be adjusted or cut whenever you are ready to change the structure.
I want to leave you with a final thought today, something to really mull over as you go back to your normal routine.
Okay.
If you took a pair of bolt cutters to your own cables, if you stripped away your job title, your daily commute, and the social circles that expect you to be a certain way, who would you actually become? Is there a zany, adventurous, singing on a mountaintop version of you just waiting for permission to step onto the trail?
This raises an important question, and it is absolutely one worth exploring.
Until next time, keep moving forward.